Hi, this is Maria Mandarino, and I am here today with Rodrigo Caldera. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Caldera,
Caldera.
Caldera. And Rodrigo is an Enneagram 4 with a 5 wing. He is a somatic psychotherapist, clinical supervisor, an art therapist. I'm going to have him talk about all these things. And he works with young people. Do you just work with young people or all ages?
Adults, yeah.
Adults and young people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to have information on his practice in the show notes. But his website is humanexperiencepsychotherapy.com. He does virtual work. So, Rodrigo, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about all those things I just mentioned about you.
Yes, hi. Thank you,
Okay.
Maria.
Thank you.
I am a psychotherapist, and even the way I became a psychotherapist was because of maybe I used to inhabit a little bit more of my two and the wanting to
Mhm.
help,
Mhm.
but it came from that deep feeling of connection with a family member that seemed to have all these ailments, but medically they were fine. So then I started putting the connection that it was something to do with emotions and the
Mhm.
mind. And so that sent me down the road of wanting to become a psychotherapist. Originally,
Mhm.
it was for holistic healing, but I
Uh-huh.
didn't think that would make me I don't know. I didn't think that was a really set career at the time.
Uh-huh.
So then I went into psychotherapy, but along the line, I discovered dance. And so therapy alone wasn't sufficient for me. So I wanted to blend the two.
Oh,
So
nice.
I really got into dance, modern dance, and I learned the beauty of my body and being in the body and learning about
Mhm.
the body, anatomy,
Yeah.
physiology, and how I move, how I express myself.
Mhm.
And that really gave me a language
Mhm.
that I felt was missing. And that was 24 when I started learning about
I
this.
was
So
going to ask, okay.
yeah, I was a little bit
So you're
shocked that I
young.
hadn't learned about my
Yeah,
body until
yeah,
24.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I started weaving psychotherapy and movement and dance. And that's how
Uh-huh.
I became the somatic psychotherapist,
Beautiful, beautiful.
really wanting to
Okay,
understand
okay.
and feel
Yeah,
the intricacy of the body.
yeah, yeah. So it sounds like the work kind of founded you, the way it found you rather, the way you have blended the work of the somatic work and the psychotherapy. Did you go seeking it, or it sounds like it called you, the dance part? Sounds like it called you.
I had I was exposed to it in childhood. In
Okay.
school, there was a troupe that came. I was living in Argentina at the time, I believe, and a
Uh,
troupe came from Brazil, a dance troupe. So we
wow.
got to go see them perform, and something in me just like was super alive.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
many years later, when I was in community college here in the States, I I met a friend who danced, and so I went to this dance performance, and I was just like,
Uh-huh.
no way.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
then finally, when my parents moved away to Florida, I stayed behind and I decided to take a dance class, like at
Nice.
San Francisco State.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
I took a dance class, and my spirit just came
That
alive.
was it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Um, you mentioned that you've kind of lived in different places already. And I'm wondering how moving it sounds like a young age. Yes. So our Enneagram doesn't officially form until we're about 21, but it's forming up until then. So what are your thoughts on how you became a 4 as a child that moved around a lot? Do you think it contributed?
Interesting. Well, looking back at it, it was always difficult fitting in because I felt like an outsider.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I felt like there was already an established community, an established social norm, an established niche that I
Hmm.
was a part of.
Hmm.
So I moved roughly every 4 years. I moved
Oh,
when I was 4, then again at 7, 12,
mm,
15. And then that's when I said, no more moving.
Yeah, yeah.
At 24, I
Uh-huh.
said, no more moving. Otherwise, I would have been in my Florida and then another
Right.
state, who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think that coming into a scene that I didn't quite feel like I was part of, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would meet friends, but almost kind of like peripheral, like the outsiders,
Uh-huh.
not quite the cliquey group within the
Uh-huh.
group. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I also am a middle child,
Uh-huh.
so I never really felt like I had my own say. I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Uh-huh.
So my room, for example, I got bounced around from room to room. So I felt like maybe, yeah, like why don't I have my own room? Like why don't I have my own voice? Like what's
Right,
going on over
right,
here?
right,
Like
right.
why not? Why them?
Yeah.
And then eventually
So,
I spoke up and
yeah.
yeah.
So what was it like being feeling like an outsider, feeling like you didn't belong? Like, where did you find how did you find your center, I guess is a good word.
Yeah. Refuge kept coming to mind as you were thinking. Uh,
Uh-huh.
my creativity. It was in my
Okay.
creativity. I would play
Uh-huh.
with my toys, create
Uh-huh.
scenes, or I would create
Uh,
drawings, like rip up t-shirts and like sew them up and stuff them. And
uh-huh.
uh,
Uh-huh.
so I went into my imaginary world.
Nice. Beautiful. That's
Yeah. And my
that's
body,
perfect
because I
for.
love jumping things, jumping off walls and running and
Uh-huh.
challenging my physicality too.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So the physicality and the creativity and
Yeah.
creating your own little world, which is something fours do really well. So you mentioned creativity, and I know that we've talked about the dance. You've mentioned choreography before when we spoke, and painting and art therapy. You want to address any of those, 3 or 4?
Yeah, actually, I'm super excited because I just got contacted by this organization. I think they're called Water Dances,
Oh,
and they perform every 2 years.
uh,
And I looked into it last year, and I got the early bird sort of invitation, and I just applied. So
uh-huh,
in 2025, around June, this
uh-huh.
time next year,
Uh-huh.
there will be this opportunity to create water dances around the world. And
Oh,
then they get
wow.
shown on a website. But
Uh-huh.
also, the idea is that you involve the community to be part of this dance. So I'm
Oh,
going to be choreographing this water dance in Pacifica here in California.
uh-huh.
I'm nervous because I have no idea what it's gonna turn out. I'm just excited at this point. Um, but yeah, so choreography is just something that, although it makes me really nervous, I feel this call.
Yeah,
I feel this
yeah,
call to it.
yeah.
And the fact that it's really public, it excites me, and as well, it
Uh-huh.
terrifies me, but it excites me, and
Yeah.
to have the opportunity to engage the community also excites me.
Uh-huh.
I've never
Uh-huh.
taken on that role in
Yeah.
this type of a community.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, so that just this desire to create and connect
Yeah, I
to
was just gonna say the 4 and the connection. Yeah, the community, and even though you've never done this before, it's like something in your soul probably feels like you know how to do it. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
strangely enough, I'm having a lunch with a dance teacher and another dance friend this
Uh-huh.
coming Thursday. So I'm gonna propose it to them,
Okay.
to
Cool.
have them possibly join me in this
Yeah. So
project.
you have even more interrelationships in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
more connections.
yeah, and it's just
Yeah.
coming together at the right
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sounds pretty special.
yeah.
And unique, and that was what I'm making notes as you're talking. Um, and I think that might be a good place to bring in the uniqueness of the 4.
Hmm.
Um, because it's not just dance, it's not just choreography, right? It's water dance. You've never done this before. It's creating community and connection. It's pretty unique in the world of movement to get all those things. So I guess my question there would be, how does that feed you? You mentioned being nervous and excited at the same time, but how does the unique aspects of this project and I think being asked to do it, somebody approached you. right? Or did you say
I
you
sought
applied
it
for it?
out, but
Uh-huh.
then
But they
it,
had to choose you from there.
yeah, it sort
Yeah,
of became this alive thing.
right. So how does that feel in the context of the four's desire to be unique?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, well, as a four, I feel that we have something, our own voice to offer, and it comes from this
Hmm.
authentic place.
Hmm.
And maybe there's a wheel that's already invented, but I will invent my own without knowing that there's a wheel that's already invented.
Yeah,
And then recognize, oh, there's already a wheel. Oh, wow, look at all the versions of the wheel there are. Uh,
yeah,
so there's this way of, it feels like it's birthed from a place of unique, like authenticity, uniqueness, originality.
yeah, yeah,
And even this project, it's site specific. So I want to go to the place itself and see what comes alive in me in response to the place
yeah.
and what the place has to say to me
Mm,
while I'm there. So
yeah,
in that sense, that uniqueness comes in the really being able to listen, that
yeah,
deep listening.
yeah, yeah,
That's either coming from something above or something deep inside
yeah,
or something outside.
yeah, yeah. So as a psychotherapist, I know you do a lot of deep listening.
Mhm.
As an artist, clearly, with what you just described, you do a lot of deep listening. What other ways do you listen deeply?
I am in nature a lot. I'm in nature I try to get out in nature every day. I have a
Mm,
little bit of an hour hike that I do in a little forest here. And
nice.
when I'm out there, I do that type of listening too,
Mhm.
allowing my senses to
Mm,
perceive what they perceive, whether it be
mm.
sound or sight or smell or the touch of the earth. I do push-ups. I
Uh-huh.
make myself do
Uh-huh.
push-ups.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
I
To
feel the
feel it.
earth.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's rock, sometimes it's pokey, sometimes it
Uh,
gives and yields onto my
yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Um, and then the plants, to the trees. And I
Mhm.
heard somewhere that if you're walking amidst, for example, there's a lot of eucalyptus, that essential oil actually is having the benefit in my
Mhm.
body and my
Uh-huh.
being as
Yeah.
much as if I was to put it on my
Yeah.
skin or
Hmm.
diffuse it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that kind of connection.
Yeah.
And then animals that show up.
Uh-huh.
Um, I know I'm no different than a tree in terms of how a bird might perceive me, but the fact that they show up and they do their song, or they might be fluttering in
Uh-huh.
front of me
Yeah.
for a while
Yeah.
instead of flying to the sides or over or something else.
Yeah.
So that kind of listening and listening to life in a way, or spirit, or whatever we call it,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
intuition.
Yeah. What does that do for you? All those things. What does that do for you?
I feel connected. I feel connected. I feel like
Yeah.
feel part of.
What's life like for you when you don't feel connected?
Well, if I don't feel connected, I do become neurotic. I become like right now I feel pretty connected.
Uh-huh.
I'm coming out of an era where maybe I was feeling more disconnection with my community and my friends, which I
Uh-huh.
don't that. I have a lot of
Hmm.
acquaintances, deep,
Uh-huh.
like
Right.
good friends.
Yep. Yep.
Not many in the area, so there's a lot of
Oh,
aloneness. Uh,
yeah.
so the few that I had in the area, there was a lot
Uh-huh.
of, sort of, it didn't feel connected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, two, threes, and fours were about values. I didn't feel like I was
Right.
valued or
Right.
considered or really taken. I was being taken for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So in those times, I need to process a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to process. If I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
if we're not processing, I'm not okay.
Right.
I will be
Right.
very moody. I can't move forward unless we process. So I become stuck.
Yeah.
Um, And then maybe I do feed that energy of sadness, the I'm so different, nobody gets me, I'm missing
Okay.
something, I'm lacking something, look at
Yeah.
how beautiful everybody else's life is,
Mm,
and here I am suffering, and does anybody really care?
mm,
Is there a way out?
mm.
Um, Granted, I was having a foot problem, so I wasn't out in nature, so I
Oh,
was like
yeah.
compensating
Wow.
even
Oh,
more.
yeah.
Um, when I was having like a crink in my neck, that's finally exiting. And
Yeah.
so I was in pain. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it just becomes like lonely and isolated, and
Mhm.
like people don't really care. I'm not able to connect. The world is so
Mhm.
selfish. I mean,
Mhm.
it is suffering a lot. This is a very,
Mhm.
there's a
It's a
lot of
hard
suffering.
time. Yeah.
So I connect with the suffering of the world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I want to pivot from the suffering of the world because I think that's a good place to ask this question. Um, Something that fours do better than just about any type, I think, is in really difficult, even sometimes horrific situations, they'll find beauty. Um, and it's almost easy for them. And I think it's, well, you could speak to this more. I think it's more than easy. I think it's almost affirming. I don't know if that would be a word that feels right to you,
Mhm,
but what do you think
mhm.
about that?
Yeah, yeah, and actually, it almost makes me think of myself as a Libra as well in the balance.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And it's very Venusian. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, that there's beauty in everything,
Yeah.
that there's a beauty in everything, or that the beauty, yeah, beauty, there has to be beauty that gives me hope.
Okay.
I think seeing the beauty gives me hope, and it keeps me going.
Yeah. So are there ever times when you can't see the beauty?
Yeah, and I was having a conversation with a new friend yesterday about evil and
Mhm.
how much evil exists or in people, or how much evil is a cause, right? An effect of
Right.
life circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
And um, there's like a deep darkness where I guess I don't see the beauty. I can't see the beauty. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Um,
What does it do to you when you can't, because you're an artist,
mhm.
right? So, and you can't see beauty, what happens?
I created beauty actually. I
I
created a dance.
love it. So there will be beauty no matter what. That's
I did. I
awesome.
was like, what makes people do these things? I created a dance. I called it Dolo because I was interpreting at the time. And Dolo means with ill intent. So
Oh,
I'm
oh,
exploring the mind of a psychopath. Why do people
wow,
kill?
wow,
What leads you to do that?
wow.
So I
Really
wanted
going
to
into
do
the
all
deep
this
dark.
intellectual research, and I ended up doing just
Yeah,
basically like movement research once I got in the studio.
wow.
Got this residency, and I got in the studio and I did zero research this way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just
So you
had
feel
such
it,
a
you have to
deep
feel it.
understanding. Of course,
Yeah.
imaginal, because I haven't done it myself. But
Uh-huh.
I had
Right.
this sort of like deep connection and understanding of the experience, and
Through
I
the
created art.
physicality. Yeah.
I created art, and I brought it to others. You know, I wanted to, in my art, my intention is to have people feel,
Yeah. Yeah.
not to look, not to be
Right.
entertained, not
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like, yes, those things are great,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
to
Yeah. You want to take them into the heart of the four.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm
Beautiful.
like, hey, how about we all explore the mind of a psychic serial killer?
But that's a perfect example. One of the examples I use, that's really perfect. Um, and I'm not a four. My wing is not four. I don't have any lines to four. But we all experience some level of the nine types in some way. And I was living in New York during 9/11,
Mm,
and there are a few things in my life that, when somebody says, "Have you seen evil?" Right? That's one of the first things that comes to my mind. And in the split second of the horror, immediately you saw the best in people. Immediately. And we saw the people that rushed in and helped, and where maybe instinct would tell people to run away, right? There were people running toward horror. And that's the closest I can, because that's my 5 interpretation of what a form might see. Yours is so much deeper. What you just said is to literally, like, through physicality, go into the experience of a psychopath, to deal, I guess, with that difficulty and pain and lack of hope, as you said. I would imagine. I hope I'm putting those words together properly for you.
mhm,
But yeah, um, the
mhm,
hard thing, and yeah, it's so unique to the 4. And um, so unique is a word that most 4s like and don't find offense with.
mhm,
Um, in the Enneagram training, we also use the word special.
mhm,
And some 4s that I've interacted with get very defensive around the word special, but they don't seem to around the word unique. And there is a little bit of a split in how those words play, and I get that. Can you speak to me about how you perceive being called unique, or calling yourself unique, versus being called special, or calling yourself special? Like, is there a difference for you?
mhm. Well, I mean, as a feeler, the first thing that comes up with the word special is all the cultural connotations that we have with it.
Yeah.
So hearing special, I also hear both the light and the shadow.
Right. Yeah.
Right, to
Yeah.
be called special is like
Uh-huh.
it's so different in your own category and a little bit
Hmm.
out there, a little
Hmm.
bit off.
Hmm.
Whereas also being called special could be that you're this unique, wonderful being that's
Hmm.
special.
Hmm.
So immediately I'm like, that word confuses me a little bit.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Whereas unique is just
Uh-huh.
unique. Unique
Yeah.
is unique.
Yeah. Right.
It's got
Right. It
one,
doesn't have a shadow. Yeah.
right? It doesn't quite
Yeah.
have a shadow
Yeah.
like
Okay.
special does.
Okay.
And being considered special and that sort of like, oh, I am special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, in my own perspective, I have to admit that my mom did have that view of me.
Uh-huh.
She thought I was special because a few people along her life, when they met me, they're like, "Ooh, you don't know what kid you have with you, you know." So I grew up with
Yeah.
that, like I'm different, I'm
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my siblings, if they should ever watch this, I think they're a 6 and an 8, and
Okay.
they are more easily, they dwell in anger easily. I don't. I shy away from
Interesting.
like overt expressions of anger.
Okay.
Um, my family was very angry,
Yeah.
so I learned to sort of observe and notice that that's not
There's
getting
the
them
5
anywhere.
wing. Yeah, that's the 5 wing.
So that's not getting
Yeah.
you anywhere, and I will not win because you're a stronger personality than
Hmm.
me, unless I
Yeah.
go like all the way, which
Yeah.
why would I?
Right. What does
So
it look like for a 4 to go all the way with that kind of energy?
destruction, utter
Okay. Yeah,
destruction.
that's, yeah.
I know how to destroy you,
Yeah.
but why would I want to
Right. Right.
destroy you?
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that most, I was so angry at a friend, a former friend, and actually it's so for the reason, the last thing I said, I was like, I don't know how to be myself around you anymore.
Oh,
I don't know how to be me.
right. Yeah.
Being me is
Yeah.
wrong no matter which way I go, so I'm
Yeah.
out of here. But with this friend, we had a few breakups, and that might have been my 2. my two
Yeah,
wanting
yeah,
like
uh-huh.
believe in this person no matter what
Mhm.
until
Yeah,
finally I was like, okay, this is like not
right.
working
You
for me. I
can't
don't know how to do
sacrifice
it.
your authenticity. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
With this one, I was so angry. I was like, I hope one day you recognize the effects of your actions. And then I walked away, right? Like, but I said it angry,
yeah.
I yelled it on the
Mm-hmm.
street. But
Mm-hmm.
that was like like that's how
Yeah,
I couldn't go further.
yeah, yeah.
Why? Right?
What
Why?
happens after an outburst like that?
This I felt sad, because
Yeah,
the disconnection and
yeah,
the fear of the four is abandonment, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
in a way, I became that abandoning entity in this friendship.
Fours do that though. Fours
Yeah.
can be, I'm going to leave before you leave me.
Mm.
They can, a low four.
Mm-hmm.
They can be really good at walking out and it's like you don't even know what just happened.
Mm.
Where like a five will leave quietly, right? An eight will leave in a blow up, right? And a four leaves in a blow up that can look and feel a lot like an eight because it's passionate. And but I think that the key is so if and fours and eights sometimes can be lookalikes. So if anybody's out there struggling with where they're falling, I think that's a good key. What does it feel like after a blow up where you walk away and you say disconnection? An eight would say satisfied. They said what they needed to say, and then an eight would probably feel, good. Um,
Which is why I have always, until I really started getting into the Enneagram, and
uh-huh.
now I can almost think of people and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, they're like
yeah.
this." And then
Hmm.
I listen to it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely
Uh-huh.
them.
Yep.
And the eight, and the five, no, my mom, I think, is a five.
Uh-huh.
And maybe the one, I think my dad's a one. Their
Hmm.
ability to get angry, blow up, and then
Hmm.
later it's like, hi. And for me, it's like, what do you mean,
Yeah,
hi?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's a whole lot of stuff that just
That
has
has to be filled
that
in.
we need to talk about before we can now jump over here and pretend like nothing happened. Like, you're okay now. Like, wait, what happened? Like, you're
Yeah,
really okay.
right,
What?
right. Yeah,
And now I understand that we're all so different.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that always puzzled me. I'm
yeah,
like, how can you be okay
yeah,
after what just happened?
yeah. And you have to realize not everybody's in their, even the middle part of their type. I mean, if somebody's in the low part, I've seen eights do exactly that. Just like leave, blow up, and then the next day call you up like, hey, want to do this? No.
No.
We have to have a conversation before we could go do this. But yeah, and so you have to realize where I mean you, but we have to realize just because somebody's a type, they may be in the low part of that type. And that's I think super hard for a four because all you guys want to do is connect and understand and go to the deeper places and somebody just fast forwarded a tape and like your gears are stripped.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do you, speaking of that, how fast or slowly do you process? So as a five, I'm a slow processor. I say we're on tape delay. Like it'll take me sometimes till tomorrow to figure out how I felt about something that happened yesterday. If it was something big. Um, do fours do that or do they, you've talked about processing. Is it an immediate or do you need time?
Processing, I would say, as I'm listening to you, I'm tapping into what I'm hearing, and what came to mind is that it's almost like a wave. Well, no, it's almost like I can hear it or see it or feel it as it's happening.
Ooh,
So it's being processed as it's happening.
wow.
And it's almost like I see it coming. So I start processing before it even, but it's already happening for me if I see
It's
it
like an
coming.
intuition almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's almost
yeah.
like sound, like that, like a siren. Like I
Uh-huh.
almost like I can hear it before anybody else can hear it. I'm already
Okay.
preparing for it. Then the siren comes, takes over, and then it goes away, and I can still hear it.
Mm.
So it's like that. It's almost
Just
like I'm processing as it's
as
approaching,
it's
I'm
coming toward
processing
you.
while it's happening, and then processing while it walks away.
Wow.
And then I have to process until there's the ability to, I guess if it's relational, to reunite and understand what happened.
For me, that I like, and I don't, I'm creative, but I would never call myself an artist. Um, to me, that description, I can't imagine an artist not being like, I can't imagine living that way. And I'm pretty intuitive, but I do it from distance.
Mm.
Like I can't, I like it. So, okay, I'm gonna take a side step. Does that make you hyper vigilant when something like when you feel it coming toward you and through you and there is a hypervigilance?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's my life circumstances also.
okay,
You
that
know,
makes
I
sense.
tend towards the hypervigilance and
Yeah,
also my body type. I don't know
yeah,
if you or your listeners know about Ayurveda, but I'm a Vata,
uh-huh.
which tends towards alertness and
Okay,
kind of high
okay,
energy and
yeah,
I'm an ectomorph in the body types, which is also
yeah,
long, thin, lean, who's like
yeah,
the one who will notice what happens.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
mesomorph will then like, take action to get us out of the room, and then
uh-huh,
um,
right.
the endomorph will sort of like calm everybody down, like everybody calm down. We're gonna make it out safe. Don't worry. But mine's the one that
To
alerts.
feel it first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So in a lot of ways, I
interesting.
have that going.
And you have a lot of air in your chart. I'm gonna skip over to that. Yeah. So your Libra sun,
Yeah.
um, Aquarius rising
Mm-hmm.
and Pisces moon. So air and water. So I've been talking more and more in the episodes about the overlap between the Enneagram and astrology. And your chart really, I mean, we've got so Libra's ruled by Venus. Um, I'm going to just go straight forward with your rising is ruled by Uranus. Um, and Pisces is the moon. Neptune, I'm sorry. Your moon is in Pisces and it's ruled by Neptune. So, so we have this Libras and Venus is beauty. Look, the focus is on beauty. Um, Aquarius and Uranus, shocking, surprising, innovative, right? So the creativity and the way you do that really screams Aquarius to me. And then Pisces and Neptune, um, and the the Neptune dissolves. Neptune, Pisces struggles, well, I shouldn't say struggles with boundaries, but Pisces doesn't like boundaries.
Mm.
Um, Boundaries hold us back. We want to connect, right? As fours, you want to connect, right? So that's perfect Piscean energy. The shocking, innovative creativity, and then the focus on the beauty. Like, I mean, that is your Enneagram map right there. And to me, there's just no denying either way. And there are many other ways to look at the journey of the soul. Um, but it was staggering to me when you told me that those were your big three in your chart. How about we talk about intensity?
Mm.
Would you say you're intense?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so it's around me.
And it's around you?
Yeah, people
Yeah.
would say I'm intense. I'm
Yeah.
intense. I am. I mean, I feel things. Like even the way I
Uh-huh.
express myself, like I'm
Yeah.
all
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I cannot be intense. I can inhabit the other, of course,
Uh-huh.
especially as a listener when I'm listening to
Okay.
somebody else or being there for somebody
Yeah.
else. I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
definitely, step off of that intensity and feel more soft and
It's that Libra. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm out there and I'm in nature, and then suddenly the wind blows. I'm like, what? And I look up, and all the eucalyptus, the way they're glistening, and I'm just like, and I just like feel it all in that moment.
What's it like when you feel all of that intensity and you're around somebody who has no clue what you're talking about?
Oh gosh. Then, then
I
you
think that
go
was the perfect
crazy.
answer. Is it exhausting? Is that, I mean, is that how, that's how I perceive that answer. Like, oh my God, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah, it's almost like the world I grew up in. I'm like, why are you so mundane?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
How can you not feel all this aliveness
Wow.
when the wind
Mhm.
blows?
Yeah. Yeah. So is it sorrow for them or judgment or,
Well, I feel like I've been seen as an outsider
yeah.
a lot, even
Yeah.
in my family, with all respect, should they
Yeah.
ever see this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm the outsider, right? I'm the one who wants to talk about it. I'm the one who needs to
Yeah.
process it. I'm the
Yeah.
one who's saying, wait a minute, did this just happen, you guys? Like,
Yeah.
really? We're just
Right.
gonna let it slip?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And so there, I never really felt like I had an ally.
Yeah.
Moving from country to country every 4 years, I didn't feel like I had my people.
Yeah.
Um, and then as a four, looking at it from that lens,
Yeah.
I feel so different, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're in a group supervision and, there's 8 of us and there's the supervisor and 7 are thinking of how beautiful and sunny it is and how they just want to get out of there. I'm thinking of how
Uh-huh.
valuable these 2 hours are that we don't get every other hour of the week. And why is
Right.
everybody so intent on getting out of here when we have this amazing opportunity to connect and go deep?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that in a way.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, when we had talked before this episode, you mentioned that people have said that you can look like a 7.
Mhm.
So sevens being the one that likes to have fun and just wants to have enjoyment. We call them the epicure. Um, with a high focus on they don't want to feel pain, they just want to do the pleasurable things in life. So what about you, perhaps on a superficial observational level, might somebody look at you and say, "Oh, you're a 7," and how would you answer that as a 4?
Mhm. Yeah, as I'm listening you ask the question, what came up for me is that a friend and I were talking about how a friend who's a 9, who for a while there didn't feel comfortable coming to me because I brought humor to the deep thing that she was bringing and confiding or bringing
Mhm.
to me.
Uh-huh.
And I would balance it with humor. And the reason that somebody thought I was a 7 was because I was in this role. I don't remember if I was in like I was with the leadership or if I was just participating at this
Uh-huh.
retreat.
Uh-huh.
And we were jumping from workshop to workshop, and this was an Enneagram workshop, and I knew enough people that I felt comfortable,
Uh-huh.
my social butterfly self jumping around from
Uh-huh.
people to people
Yeah.
and enough depth that it didn't feel superficial.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for me. It was like
Right.
deep connections that I had
Yeah.
many to go around. It was perfect. My soul was probably vibrating and I was probably social and I was
Yep.
probably bubbly and happy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I could mistake me for a 7 too.
Uh-huh.
But thinking as I was listening to your question of this other friend, how maybe the humor, because I bring levity. Not that I'm trying to avoid feelings or not go
Right.
deep, but I'm also maybe trying to balance it out so that we can
Interesting.
go deep. Titrating it.
Oh,
I
wow.
titrate.
Yeah.
I titrate.
Nice.
I titrate,
Nice.
and people
Yeah.
perceive it as maybe exiting.
Yeah. And you're drawing them in. Yeah. Is your so fours are kind of known for gallows humor. Do you do that?
All for gallows, what does that mean?
Gallows, kind of like dark, kind of like morbid humor.
Ah,
You
you
do
know, a
that?
bit, yes. And
Okay.
I had another friend a while back. I used to make pokey jokes,
Uh-huh.
and this friend didn't like it. So they're like, "Oh, could you please not do that? It doesn't feel good." And I was like,
Yeah.
Sure." And of course, I'm like, "Where did I pick that up? Why do I do that?" And, I could trace it to my dad. He does
Yeah.
it. And
Uh-huh.
then I could trace it to my culture. We do it
Right.
as a
Yeah.
Nicaraguan Latino.
Uh-huh.
We're very like, pokey humor, like we
Yeah.
make fun of each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when
Yeah.
I went to Spain recent in 2017, people make fun of each other. Like that's their way of I don't want to speak for Spaniards and I don't want to
Yeah.
generalize or
Right.
stereotype,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I saw people interact in that way where they kind of not in a malicious evil way, but they just make fun of each other.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
my spirit was so happy. It was like, wow, okay, so they do it here. Um, but yeah, I don't know if in maybe the American sensibility, it could be seen as dark humor or
Yeah.
pokey
Yeah.
humor or
Yeah.
things that don't quite feel good.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's kind of funny if
Yeah.
you look at it, you know?
And for you, it's still connection. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
I see you deeply. This is uniquely tailored to you. It's a very intimate jam.
I think that's definitely like a seven wouldn't do that.
They would.
That's yeah. Yeah, it has to be like superficial. Silly is a word like I would never think of a four as silly. I wouldn't use that. Uh, If a four is being silly, there's something else, kind of like you saying, using humor to connect. There's something else at hand because fours can be lighthearted. And they can also be just like very heavy and you lose them. Um, but yeah, when a seven is, I think joyful would be the word I would use, um, as opposed to silly.
Mhm.
Like silly is a word I think of more with seven, particularly a low seven. Um, all right. I want to talk to you about social justice. Mostly I think in the context of your work, you had met, and you didn't mention so much yet on the episode, but we had talked previously about your work with kids, that are kind of at a tough stage in life and kind of have challenges. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit and how you feel about social justice in like how you got drawn into that work, first of
Mhm.
all, and where it lives in your Enneagram.
Mhm.
Because we think of before we think of social justice as a phrase that goes to Enneagram 8.
Okay.
So yeah, so I kind of want to hear your four experience of social justice.
Huh. How interesting. So the eight has a social justice
Yeah,
twist.
yeah.
Huh. For me, how did I get into the social justice? Well, I'm a gay man and I was
Mhm.
born in Nicaragua.
Uh-huh,
So I lived in Central and South America until I was 15.
uh-huh.
And then I came to the United States, to California. Thank
Mm.
God. Um, really close to San Francisco.
Yeah,
Thank
okay,
you,
okay,
universe.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so growing up, I didn't know I was gay until I was like about maybe like 19, 20, maybe confirmed at 21,
Uh-huh,
22
okay.
for myself, but already knew, suspected.
Right.
There's something
Mhm,
called compulsory heterosexuality.
mhm.
I don't quite remember who coined the term, but it's when you don't know any different, so that's what you
Right,
believe you
right.
must do. That's what I'm
Yeah,
gonna do because that's what everybody does. That this is what
right,
we do. Like you
right,
don't question it.
right.
So when I my parents left, they moved to Florida when I was 24,
Mhm,
and I had just started dating a man,
mhm,
and I did come out to my parents
mhm.
before they left because
Uh-huh.
for me it's very important to be honest,
Right.
Hey,
Authentic.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you the truth and you decide what to do with it.
Right. Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
least I'm gonna give it to you
Yeah. Yeah.
because I don't want
Yeah.
to keep these secrets and like
Right.
this division and this disconnection and this
Right.
pretend life. Like, why even
Hmm.
bother?
Right. Yeah. Wow.
So when they left, looking for work as an, um, I was brainwashed to be an employee. So I thought, let me go. How do I get into these organizations? How do I
Mm-hmm.
become an employee that can rise to the top? And so I
Hmm.
started as an administrative assistant.
Uh-huh.
But the only way that I could have it be fun for me was to have it be for a cool organization.
Uh-huh.
So I joined this organization that was working with Latino, gay, and bisexual men
Uh-huh.
around community and
Uh-huh.
building self-esteem through
Mm.
community
Wow.
and education. So that's sort of where it started for me.
Hmm.
Um, Something that was really personal and near to me, which
Yeah.
was being queer
Yeah.
and having a
Yeah.
safe space for queer
Yeah.
folk.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
from then on, I moved on to I wanted to go to Barcelona, but got stuck in Boston. And I became employed by the Gay Men's Domestic Violence Project when they were open back then.
Hmm.
And that's when I started working with the survivors of domestic or intimate partner violence.
Mm.
So my heart started, expanding to that
Yeah.
cause.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I started working for an organization that served people who are experiencing co-occurring disorders, so substance abuse and
Mm.
severe mental illness.
Mm.
And there, without knowing, there was a lot of trafficking that was
Trafficking.
happening as well. And
Yeah.
currently, I work in an organization where we help survivors of human sex trafficking through the arts.
Mm.
We bring art
Wow.
projects, and part
Wow.
of them are youth. And so I've been working with these youth and adults, bringing them art projects that mainly provide choice, the ability to choose first if you want to participate or not, then
Hmm.
how and what you choose and how you express it and what
Yeah.
colors and what materials and then also that there's nothing expected of you. We
Yeah.
don't expect anything of you. We're simply offering this to you and you're free to accept or not. And then when
Mm.
they do and they engage with it, there's this beauty that comes out of it. This like, oh, I can't believe I made this. I can't believe I created this.
Yeah.
But while the creation's happening, there's also that process.
Yeah.
There's those 2 hours where we're just chit-chatting and stories
Yeah.
are coming out and memories are
Hmm.
coming out and this community starts forming and building.
Mm.
And and it's just so beautiful to be able to provide that space
Yeah.
where people can feel brave and safe enough to be themselves and show
Be
themselves
themselves.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
So that social cause came from a really deep wanting to help others who also, growing deep respect to my family, but
Hmm.
I highly resonate with that book, Adult Children of Immature Parents.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, my parents did the best they could, but
Hmm.
they were pretty
Hmm.
immature and trying to
Yeah.
figure out themselves and highly
Right.
traumatized themselves,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
living in that responsive trauma body
Yeah.
and trying to raise children in a tour-worn country, and having
Mm.
to become immigrants over and over
Yeah.
again, being
Yeah.
isolated, I imagine, having to
Mm.
recreate those communities themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my big push is to create a space and a set of ears for people who feel
Yeah.
they've also been through
Yeah.
this deep miss,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether and they end up in the situations where they deeply miss themselves.
Mm.
And so then they end up in the situations where had
Yeah.
they not missed themselves or when they find themselves,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good to put myself in that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where it birthed from,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. I hear so much connection. I hear so much authenticity. I mean, you literally like put your hands on your heart. And like eights would, when they pursue social justice causes, it's to protect the underdog. And I mean, yeah, you're doing that, but you are doing it, what I jotted down in my margin here was using authenticity to help others become authentic. That's what I heard. Um, it's not what an 8 would do. It's what a 4 would do, who's, drawn to and called to social justice work. So it's doing it through the heart, because
Mhm.
the 8's the body type, right? And
Mhm.
you're the heart type. So
Thank you for
um,
reflecting that. Yeah,
yeah,
it's helping others become their
the
authentic
authentic
self.
self. Yeah, and
And
reconnecting
that's
them to
truly
themselves
important.
and others. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That is that's
Mhm.
actually like even an eye opener to me because I've not talked to fours. I've not met many fours that I've met many fours who have an Aquarian nature and want to help humanity, but not who are doing social justice work. So to hear the
Mhm.
difference, and there is a lot, there's a lot of similarities to, like I said before, the leaving. A 4 and an 8 will both leave. It'll look the same, but it'll be for very different reasons. Um, and the same thing with social justice. It's for very different reasons, and it's very to use 2 4 words, authentic and beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, and those are not words that I would use with an 8 doing similar work.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Mhm.
think it'd be pretty extraordinary to have a 4 and an 8 teamed up in that type of an environment. Um,
Yeah, well, seeing my brother as an 8,
uh-huh,
it's he's had a lot of suffering too, so
yeah,
he's more in his
low
lower,
weight, yeah,
but I see his
yeah,
protective side for sure in his
yeah,
children
yeah,
when he had girlfriends,
yeah,
wives,
yeah,
like that protective side
hmm,
really comes out.
yeah,
And the 8, I think, is also spoken of as being an amazing leader when they're
yeah,
doing well.
yep, hmm,
And I thought if my brother was tip top and we got together, we could do great
great
things.
work, yeah,
But
yeah.
when we're both, if we're both in the lower
In the
end of
low, yeah,
low end of the 8,
not
if
a
we're
good idea.
thinking about it, the best way is for me to leave you alone so you don't feel judged because I am the 8. And for you to not speak to me because you will agree me, and I don't like that. And I don't want to
Yep,
make anyone feel, we don't want to make each other feel bad.
right,
But if
right,
we were
yeah,
doing well, I have
hmm,
thought that, like,
yeah,
wow, we care.
yeah. It's a
We care.
beautiful mix, yeah, yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
one brings what the other one innately doesn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Because an 8's never, even a healthy 8 is not going to think about authenticity. They're
Mm.
just not. They're just not. Um, Tell me about your 5 wing and how you notice it turning up.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I thought I was a 3 wing because I am quite flashy and
Uh-huh.
very expressive and
Yeah, the dance. Yeah.
yeah, and the dance and I love fashion and
Uh-huh.
I'm drawn to fashion
Yeah.
um and I do have that sort of achiever in a way.
Mhm.
Kind of, maybe. I don't know, even as I say it.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, maybe not."
Well, I don't think
But
we're separated from the other wing. I mean, I think we still have access to it, but we tip a little easier to one side.
yeah.
So I don't
And
think
so
it's either or.
and the 5, I'm just learning about it, honestly.
Uh-huh.
But for some
Okay.
reason, the 5, it didn't resonate with me as the bohemian, the outsider.
Uh-huh.
uh, For with wing 5 being more bohemian, more outsider.
Yeah.
But if I look at it, I live in this remote place by myself. You know, my conversation, if I'm in a general population, it's quite bizarre, I guess, to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm quite out there. Um, And the 5, all I really know much about the 5 is looking at it through how I understand my mom, because I think she's a
Okay.
5, and they're
Uh-huh.
very intellectual, and I love intellectual
Uh-huh.
conversations. Like I
Uh-huh.
think as a Libra Virgo, I love it because we have the dynamic of like our conversation is so dynamic. It goes
Uh-huh.
from depth to shallow, and it's
Uh-huh.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So the 5 holds that intellectual side that I really love.
Yeah.
to understand things and wire things. When I get confused, that's like, I don't
Yeah.
get it. Why?
Right.
So wanting to understand, if I'm angry in traffic, it's because I don't understand that person. Like I don't understand what would lead somebody to do that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
So this curious, I'm a problem solver. Like I see the solution for things usually
Uh-huh.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I have a bit of the Cassandra's curse where you know, but nobody will believe you.
Nobody listens.
And all the time, I'm like, oh,
I
it's
love
right.
it.
And people are like, I'm like, yeah, it's to the right. They're like, okay. And we go
They
left.
go.
And then eventually we keep going right. And I'm like, like you're right. I love hearing you're right. Not because I'm right, but just because it's like, yeah, I know.
It
I
saves
confirm the
time.
truth.
How are you with time? Do you feel like it saves you time and somebody just admits you're right? Because that's
Yeah,
a 5 thing.
yeah. We would save so, but then I go
You
into
just
patient
listen to
mode. I'm like,
me.
okay, let's just go left. Sure, why not?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's definitely 5.
So I think I
Um,
have more five in me than I realized.
yeah. How about intrusion? How do you deal with intrusion? That's
Intrusive
a
people?
yeah, well, yeah, or
Or me being
intrusions on
intruding?
your time, or yeah, or people that are intrusive. Yeah, because 5s don't like
I hate
intrusions.
it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. When I worked
yeah,
with youth, I work with adults.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't work with youth that
Uh-huh,
much, but
uh-huh,
apparently I've worked with youth a lot. When I
uh-huh,
worked with youth at this place called Guerrero House, where it was a transition home for people,
uh-huh,
for youth who were homeless or in the
uh-huh.
foster care, and they were
Yeah,
transitioning to be independent adults.
uh-huh,
I was a residential assistant, and I
uh-huh.
hated knocking on the doors to do room
Oh,
checks at
wow.
night.
Yeah.
I felt it was the most intrusive thing
Intrusive. Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. 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 Fives
And
wouldn't like
and
that. Yeah.
intrusive people in Spanish, we have a word, it's a kind of like pet word,
Uh-huh.
metichon.
Uh-huh.
Someone who's a metichon is like they're
Uh-huh.
always up in your business.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't stand metichones. I'm like, leave it, back off. Like, I can't have enough space between you and me.
Yeah.
Or people who like get
Yeah.
all up in my face, like
Yeah.
literally, like they get up
Yeah.
in my face.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Once I had a
Yeah.
therapist who was like, right here, this is what I saw. And I was just like, can you back up? I need to feel distance. It's like too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like intrusion.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Even
definitely
loud
sounds like the
sounds
wing 5.
on my sound, like on my
Yeah.
ears, loud
Yep.
sounds, loud, oh, smells. Oh my God,
Yeah.
walking around San Francisco, you get
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of smells on the
Yeah.
streets.
Yep.
And it'll
Yep.
smell like, jasmines, and then suddenly it smells like something else. And it's just like, it's such an intrusion.
Yep, I think the 5 is speaking there. The 5
That's
wing.
good to know. I had no idea it was a
Yeah,
five
yeah,
trait.
yeah, yeah. Intrusions on space, physical space, just energetic intrusions, and then being asked to be the intruder is absolutely unnatural. I mean, it's energetically difficult for a 5 to do that. And I would venture to say if a 5 were put in a position like a like a job where that became a big part of the position, they'd probably find a way to leave,
No.
is my guess. So yeah.
Well, that brings me so
Yeah.
much compassion towards my five. Like, oh,
I have to tell you, 5s are I have joked that I should name the channel the Enneagram 5 channel. We have more 5 viewers than I have one episode that I think we're up to like 4,000 views, and it's the type 5 episode. And a lot of people don't think people think like 5s are standoffish, they're snobbish, they're, hard edged and whatever, but they really do need compassion. They really do, because they're that way because they're usually feeling overloaded, so they become distant.
yeah.
And it's really interesting you as a 4 having that 5 wing, because usually if you put a 4 and a 5 in the same room, the 5 is going to make the 4 crazy because the 5 is going to pull away and process. And the 4 is going to think you just disconnected from me. What did I do wrong? So being a 5 with a 4 wing is kind of, rather being a 4 with a 5 wing is kind of an interesting,
A little cognitive dissonance.
or greater compassion.
Compassion is a thing. You have a Kuan Yin statue out in my yard, like
Mhm.
ultimate and compassion is
Yeah,
amazing.
that's funny. One of my teachers, I'm pretty sure is a four, and Kuan Yin is like her. That's her whole thing. Yeah,
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 and to be honest, as a four with compassion, that's something that I work on myself a lot
yeah,
with myself, having
yeah. Good.
compassion towards
Yeah,
myself and others.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's
Nice.
not easy.
No, no, it's not. It sounds, I always think, when people talk about compassion, it sounds easy and fluffy, and it's the real work of compassion. You guys know how to do it as a four. You guys know that depth, yeah, it's deep work.
Hmm.
It's deep
And it's
work.
that warmth when you said that
Yes.
vibes are
Hmm. Like distant.
that, yeah, like that intrusion, that they don't like intrusion. Like
Hmm.
many times has my mom being like, in other words, like, you're blasting me right now. Like,
Hmm.
why are you blasting me out in this and right here in this setting?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm just
What did I
speaking
do?
the truth. It's just the honest truth. What do you mean? But now
Yeah.
that I look at it from that angle of intrusion, and oh my goodness, how
Yeah.
horrible that must feel.
It's overwhelming usually.
Yeah,
And they shut down,
yeah.
if
And then
it's,
the flight,
yeah.
breathe, the flight
Hmm.
comes out.
Yep.
It's,
Yep. Yep.
and
And it
so,
takes like till tomorrow till they can even figure it out.
uh,
That's the tape delay that I joke
yeah,
about. Yeah.
yeah. So that I guess I can see that in me, that cognitive dissonance
Hmm.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, even like wanting to put myself out there, but feeling like it's too much.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even for this interview, I'm like, oh, what am I going to reveal? What don't I reveal? Oh, I want to be true to the four, but
Right.
oh my goodness,
Right.
who's going to see
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Even that thinking of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Let's see what else we have here. Um, so we've talked about creativity a lot. How does I'm assuming creativity brings you peace. Would that be accurate? Okay.
Hmm.
How does it
Yeah.
bring you peace?
When I hear you say that, I'm saying that a lot.
Mhm.
When I hear you say that, though, I almost imagine a river flowing, and then it
Mm.
goes,
Oh,
it branches out.
okay.
And so creativity for me, it does that. If something feels like this, it goes, and
So
it
it's
allows
that
me,
Piscean, no boundaries, or it takes the boundaries away. Well,
it allows me flow.
yeah. Cool. All right. Um, would you say you're resilient?
That's so funny. I was gonna say that and then I forgot, and I'm glad you bring it up again,
Uh-huh.
because that is something that, yes,
Okay.
yes, that resilience is
Uh-huh.
something that I've even said to myself and to others a lot. Like, I don't know why I'm so resilient. I don't know how I made it out this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because, and what do I mean by resilience, right? Like, I feel that me as a resilient being, I can sit in front of you while you're yelling, and I can bounce from "What's happening?" to, okay, I can breathe and ground and center myself.
Yeah.
But I tell my trainees is I stop and I ground,
Uh-huh.
then I open and
Uh-huh.
welcome,
Uh-huh.
and then I be with.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's what I
Mm.
do. And my resilience in being able to pause,
Yeah.
ground, welcome, and be with, then I can see, oh, like I had I was gonna have dinner with a friend, and I was coming from Hayward. My friend was in San Francisco, and I sensed the tension rising. And I'm just like, wait, we're about to hang out. We should be excited and have like happy to
Yeah.
see each
Right.
other,
Yeah.
and we have plenty of time to decide where to go. Why
Yeah.
is this becoming such a tension building thing?
Uh-huh.
Why are we about to start snapping at each other?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was able to see it. I'm like, wait a minute, this tension is building. And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, and I think my friend had to go to the bathroom. I'm like, why don't you go to the bathroom, take care of that, and then
Uh-huh.
call me back?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did. They called me
Yeah.
back, and then there
Yeah.
was like, it's like, hey, we have a lot of time.
Uh-huh.
How about we both think about it, and then when I'm closer on or on the bridge, I
Uh-huh.
call you.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Uh-huh.
Because there was no need for me to get on that, as my other friend likes to say, to get on the boat, to row
Uh-huh.
out, right? I
Yeah.
don't need to get on that boat.
Right.
And
Right.
And resilience for me is that ability to notice that.
Yeah.
Resilience for
Yeah.
me is my ability to know that this conversation shook me so much
Uh-huh.
that I'm a somatic psychotherapist. I can go shake,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
right? Or I
Mm-hmm.
can put
Yep.
on a song that helps me
Yep.
just like get it
Yep.
out. Or
Yep.
I can put on my shoes and go out in nature and feel the wind and feel the sun or feel the
Yeah.
fog or,
Yeah.
or that I can create a picture or paint,
Yeah.
not a painting, that would be too, for me, the way I paint, it's
Uh,
like, it
yeah.
wouldn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
so maybe an
Yeah.
oil pastel drawing where I can
Uh-huh.
just express it.
Yeah.
So resilience for me is that, again, I don't know, the water when it's trapped, it finds a way to flow. And
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, resilience is maybe finding that way to flow
Yeah.
by being able to return to a space where I can be grounded enough that my creativity then turns on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have always wondered why I'm so resilient. Because, growing up in an angry family and like stuff happened and
Yeah.
we moved around a lot and you recreate your
Yeah.
family of origin and your friendships. I had a lot of turmoil in my friendships and
Mm-hmm.
relationships where is it me? Is there something wrong with me? And that's the fourth thing, right? Like there's
Right.
something
Yep.
wrong
What's
with me.
missing? Yep.
And I met people that reinforced that message
Mm-hmm.
until I had enough wherewithal, actually
Mm-hmm.
through dance and
Yeah.
connection and contact and touch
Yeah.
myself and being able to choreograph and then touch with others and contact and being witnessed and
Yeah.
being seen, and people loved me as a dancer. They
Yeah.
loved me, they
Yeah.
still love,
Yeah.
but it was this, I'd never been loved like this
Yeah.
before.
Right.
And so it was this deep acceptance. And
Once you found that, was it easy? Like, was everything after that? Like, once you found that deep acceptance?
I mean, it started with the Landmark Forum when I was young.
Uh-huh.
And then I started learning about myself. And then
Uh-huh.
when I found dance,
Yeah.
I used to take the bus a lot.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I realized once that somebody brushed up against me and I didn't jump.
Um,
And I recognized that every time before I had jumped. And
mm,
I was like, wow, so all this dancing, all this contact, all this touch, all this connection,
yeah.
my system
Yeah.
has settled.
Yes.
And then when I wasn't
Yes.
dancing as much, again, I kind of became,
Ah, okay.
it's a scary world. And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel alone a lot. Like people
Yeah.
don't understand me,
Yeah.
don't get me. And like, really,
Yeah.
why not to each other?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I noticed that. So it
Wow.
a lot, and it
Wow.
helps a lot. Now I do it with
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
contact myself,
Yeah.
because yeah, connection is a struggle for me right now in terms of
Yeah.
finding community
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like-minded,
Uh-huh.
because I'm I've been shedding
Yeah.
that which I used to be, which I'm
Uh-huh.
no longer,
Uh-huh.
which now feels like conflict,
Yeah.
and I
Mm-hmm.
don't need conflict in my life, right?
Yeah.
Who needs
Yeah.
conflict? And I'm
Yeah.
willing and brave enough to let go of that which I've known
Mm.
in order to find either another way of being okay by myself
Mm.
as a four,
Mm.
that we're all different,
Right.
as a four,
Right.
being okay with myself by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and or making those connections that feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. Your five wing will help you modulate that too.
Mm,
Yeah. And speaking of modulation, what you had said before about when you were talking about your friend and kind of, I don't remember the word that you used, but I would say kind of like assessing like where you wanted to be in that energy. I thought of what you said earlier with how you feel it almost as a wave of information that comes at you. To me, what you did with the friend was like modulating that wave so that you could process with more kindness towards yourself, I think.
mhm,
Um, and I
mhm,
think that's something that fours can really learn from, because to me that's pretty high four.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
yeah, yeah, because I think fours can get sucked into the drama.
And I
Um,
loved the drama when I was younger. I loved it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
now I'm not that dramatic, and
yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah,
why are you spending so much time in this drama? Do you know you're bathing in stress hormones right now?
Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
I want drama, I turn on the news, like intentionally. I'm like, oh, I want to get fired up. Let me watch the news.
Yeah,
And then I get
yeah,
fired up and it
yeah,
feels good because
yeah.
I'm like, I'm wanting to get
Right,
fired up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But when it's just happening from that reactive,
yeah,
like that's something that I've learned a lot. And I don't know, my life chose me, I chose my life, who knows, right?
yeah.
But somatic psychotherapy, really, expressive arts, like
Mhm,
movement-based
mhm.
expressive arts, like
Yeah,
how much more down this road could I go
yeah,
without
yeah,
meaning to?
yeah, yeah.
I didn't say, "Ooh, this is what's gonna help me."
Right,
I just
right.
responded to my impulses. Like
Yeah,
how when you're like, "Oh," you ask me a question, I'm like, "Oh, as I'm hearing you say that."
yeah.
I don't know if I've always been this way or if I've fine-tuned the
I'm
ability
sure
to
it's a little of both. Yeah, yeah,
and
because I think
reactive.
ultimately it's a gift and that you are fine tuning. Yeah,
And that's that
yeah,
resilience that I don't know where it came from. Like, how did I go
mhm,
from reactive to responsive? Why?
yeah,
How and
yeah,
why?
right,
What drove me there?
right. Yeah, yeah,
Something did. Like,
yeah,
did.
yeah,
And now,
yeah.
like,
Cool.
helping other people recognize
Yeah,
that they also
nice.
don't need to live in reactivity. Unless
Yeah,
they want to, of course, then go for it. Like,
yeah,
it's fine.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
they don't
But if
have
it's
to.
hurting them and they want something else, you can
Yeah,
guide them to that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, Rodrigo, what scares you?
um, well, it's interesting. Earlier, I was getting a little bit cold, and I'm not cold now, but feeling exposed, being exposed. Um, I don't know if it's cultural or what, but it's funny because right now it seems to be in the zeitgeist of this country,
Yeah,
at least on
yeah,
YouTube videos,
yeah, yeah,
that my one of my biggest fears, also I have a North Node in Scorpio, will reveal.
yeah. Okay.
One of my biggest fears is that for some random reason, somebody could make something up about me and there I go off to jail. And now I'm locked up. Like that has always, I had my other biggest fear was being rolled up in the carpet, like on a rug. Like I think I saw that in a movie once, and
Uh-huh,
like if you put me in a rug and roll me up and that I'm like stuck,
uh-huh,
like
uh-huh.
biggest fear. So something around loss of freedom,
Freedom. Okay.
loss of freedom and being perceived in a way that's so off and a road. Like a friend of mine, we made my nine friend, we since made up, but I went to a party and I met this woman and she was talking about all this stuff that I later found out from my friend is QAnon stuff. And I came back to my friend. I'm like, oh my goodness, because this is my friend where we're like, oh my God, have you learned about, why did you hear about AI? Oh, have you heard about intermittent fasting? Oh, have you heard about the oceans? Oh, have you heard? And I was like, oh my God, wait until you hear what I heard at that party. And my friend's like, that's QAnon. I'm like, oh. And she's like, you don't believe it, do you? And I was like, well, I don't follow this person around, so who am I to believe or disbelieve? I don't believe it and I don't disbelieve it.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
it's true or not. Who am I? How would I know? You know, and my friend translated to I'm a QAnoner and then severed our friendship for a
Ooh,
while until she realized that,
right,
like, and then she came back.
right.
And that being misperceived in such a big way.
The inauthenticity.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
somebody
we've been
thinking,
friends for 20 years. How
yeah,
are you now like suddenly like thinking
not
I'm a
know who I
QAnon?
am.
No
Right.
offense to QAnoners or anything. Like I
Right,
don't even
right,
know what
yeah,
it is, but
yeah, yeah.
like that wasn't me. And
You're
to
right,
be misperceived like
right.
that, and
Yeah.
then even yielding to incarceration of sorts, that
Uh-huh.
scares me. And
Yeah,
also abandonment is one of the fears,
yeah,
core fears,
yeah.
or if I
Mm-hmm.
understand
Yep, yep,
correctly. And
absolutely. Yep.
just being like that felt like a big abandonment. It's a big
Hmm.
abandonment of you don't see
You don't
me,
see who I am. Yeah,
really don't see me
yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think that's my biggest fear.
yeah, yeah.
And in whatever shape, form it dresses or shows up,
Uh-huh.
that's
Uh-huh.
it.
Okay. Couple more quick questions. You mentioned isolation. How does it help you and how do you emerge from it? I'm pretty sure I know how you emerge from it.
Mhm.
But how does it help?
Yeah, there's a saying that a rose remains a bud only until it's way too uncomfortable to stay the bud and then
Uh-huh.
bursts
Yeah,
out of that state.
yeah,
I think that way.
okay.
I need to incubate. I need
Ah,
to. I met this woman once and she was a Wiccan
uh-huh,
practitioner. She was a
mhm,
witch and she could see aura and
uh-huh.
she saw my aura and she's like, when you're upset, you like to brood. You need everybody else to see that you're not doing well.
Mm-hmm. That's four.
I'm like,
Yep,
oh,
yep,
oh, I guess I
yep,
do.
yeah,
I need to
yeah,
feel recognized.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah,
So it's not enough to be isolated. People need to understand that you are
yeah,
isolating. Like
yeah,
it's part of
yeah.
the dynamic. Okay.
And if you're not getting me, then you know what? It just feels terrible, and I'd rather be alone.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if I'm alone, then I can at least stay in the bud until it
yeah,
becomes uncomfortable enough.
yeah,
And some creative spark comes, because
yeah.
creativity is not just
Right,
creative art, but it's also the thoughts, right? And
right.
the
Yeah,
ideas
yeah,
and impulses.
yeah,
So some creative impulse comes along, and then that brings me out of that bud
yeah. The
state.
creative. That's what I thought you would say, that that's what took you out of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. What's the one non-negotiable truth that you know as a four?
Mm. One non-negotiable truth as a four that this is so superficial, but it's so true. The mundane gives me allergies.
I love it. The fours in my life would probably be shaking their head yes. Um, yeah, and I don't think that's superficial because it comes from deep in the four. Like you feel when you say that,
Yeah.
it's felt.
And as I say that, I guess the mundane at all levels,
Yeah, yeah.
whether it be just the way of thinking or
Mhm, mhm.
the way you express that thinking.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Yep, yep.
The mundane.
Yeah, the mundane gives you allergies. I love it. All right. Is there anything else that you would like to share to bring greater awareness or understanding to Enneagram type fours?
Yeah, let's see. Well, one aspect that maybe I haven't discussed so much is the one wing when I'm
Uh-huh.
doing well. I think I go towards the one wing,
Yeah, it's the line. Yeah, the
the line
line between. Yep.
towards the
Uh-huh.
line of the
Yep.
one.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I have to say that when I'm in the flow, I
Uh-huh.
become highly productive and organized,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I'm able to do a lot.
Okay.
And I do, as a Libra for maybe hold the spectrum and I'm
Yeah.
not always in balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, yeah, that entering and exiting out of these states of being,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
maybe I would like to just kind of bring a little bit of a shout out to that
Yeah.
as a four, I don't know if it's me and my unique fourness. As you said, I'm a Libra, Aquarius, Pisces, and like you're
Right.
like
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
four in
Y-
astrology.
Yeah.
If I heard
Yeah.
you
It
correctly.
is. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm a
Yeah.
rabbit in Chinese zodiac, so
Okay.
also very like similar qualities.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
don't know how
Hmm.
much I'm a typical four, and not that I'm trying to be a unique or special four. Even amongst fours, I am the most four I am of the fours. All my astrological, everything points to it. From childhood, I've been told I'm special, right?
I love it. Oh gosh.
I don't know, but that ability to weave
And out.
in and out, that
Yeah.
chameleon self.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
being on
Nice.
point as much as
Yeah.
we can be.
Yeah.
Scattered.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
yeah.
Rodrigo, this was really wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You had reached out to do this, and I really appreciate you doing that and appreciate your time. Again, your practice is humanexperiencepsychotherapy.com. I'm assuming in the virtual you can do the somatic work as well. Like that's this is right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, if you guys out there watching, don't know anything about somatic work, go out there, learn about it. This is work you should be, it changes everything. I mean, part of what I do with, I don't know if you know who John Barnes is, myofascial release therapy. It's somato-emotional work. So I do it on the table. You do it in a very different way, cognitively with people. So yeah, it's life-changing. It's down to the cellular level and, yeah,
Wow.
so
That's something I've just started learning about myofascial release
yeah.
through
Mhm.
blocking.
Hmm.
Blocking, I think. Um,
Um,
I don't know. I don't know much about it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
John Barnes. John Barnes is the guy that I mean, there's many different styles, but yeah, John Barnes is one of the somato emotional people. But yeah, if you are looking to do this work with somebody, you're the guy. So thank you for again for your time here, for what you contribute, for what you help people through, for the deep dark places that you go into with them. That we need people to be have the courage and the heart to go in there and do this work right now at this time, especially in civilization. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And thank you
Okay.
for having me. And glad
You're
I
welcome.
reached out. Thank you
Yes,
for the
me too.
invitation
Okay. Okay.
and everything you are also giving
Thank you.
back. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you next time. Bye.